Hello everyone and welcome back to the sessions on strategic financial management. Friends, in this class of CA Final Strategic Financial Management, we are going to learn basic terms involved within bond valuation. So our main topic heading is bond valuation, but in this class we are just focusing on the basic terms and clarification of those basic terms, understanding the base concept of bond valuation. So you may please put up this title, Bond Valuations Basic Terms Clarified. Now for the purpose of bond valuation, it is important that you need to have clarity of these terms. What I will do is, one by one I will place each term over here on the screen and you need to note down each term systematically, and you try to just understand the meaning of each term along with me as and when I am taking you ahead. Now with respect to notes writing, wherever I will be giving you some notes or some calculations on the slide over here, what you just can do is you can pause the video and take note of the same, and then you can proceed ahead. So I have not included the scope of any writing time in this whole session. You just have to pause the video if at all you want to note down something. So be with me throughout the session, and I'm sure by end of the session you will be very clear with all these important terms. So let us begin with the first term, face value. Now what is face value of a bond? Face value of a bond indicates the denomination of a bond. So when we say a bond is of rupees 100, a bond is of $100, a bond is of rupees 1000, this is the nominal value of the bond. It is the value which is inscribed on the face of the bond. When you see a bond, a printed bond, when you see that, it will show the nominal value or the face value or the denomination of the bond on its face. That is what we call as face value. So face value can also be understood as denomination of bond, and technically it can also be understood as nominal value of a bond. So face value is important because if it is 8% bond, then 8% interest will be paid on that bond, and that 8% will be computed on that face value. So we call that interest rate as a coupon rate. So that is what is coming up as our next term, coupon rate, and followed by the next term, coupon payment. So coupon rate and coupon payment I will explain you by way of an example. Suppose I have issued a bond of face value rupees 1000 which carries 8% coupon rate. Then I have committed, I am issuing company, I am the issuer of the bond. I have committed to the investor that on investor's money I will provide 8% returns. Basically not on the actual money invested by the investor, but on the face value of the bond. On the face value of the bond, face value being 1000, I will provide 8% interest annually on that bond. So 8% is the coupon rate, 1000 is the face value, and 8% of 1000 will be rupees 80, which will be identified as a coupon payment. So I'm sure you are clear with these three terms: what is the face value, what is coupon rate, and what is coupon payment. Coming up next is issue price. Now friends, what happens? The issuing company, the issuer of the bond, can price the bond depending upon various factors. Those factors could be the quality of the bond, the credit worthiness of the issuing company, the position or the interest rate prevailing in the market where the bond is being issued. All these factors will play a dynamic role in understanding what will be the issue price of the bond. So how I am trying to put it across, try to understand. It is simply a price which is offered for the subscription of the bond. So when someone is going for the subscription of this bond in the primary market, I will tell you what primary market is, but when an investor is trying to subscribe for this bond or trying to purchase the bond directly from the issuing company, we call this at the purchase made at issue price. So what happens? The bond issuing company is basically coming up with a fundraising requirement, and there is a counterparty who is an investor. So one side there is an investor, one side there is an issuing company which is basically behaving like a borrower. So when a company is issuing bonds, it is indirectly borrowing money, correct? From whom? From the counterparty. So there are two parties involved in a bond contract, the issuer of the bond and the holder of the bond. So the holder of the bond is basically the investor, and the issuer of the bond, the issuing company, is the borrower. Now what would happen? Suppose the issuing company has a strong credit worthiness, it has a very good credit record in the past. Whenever it has issued bonds, it has repaid all the bonds at its time. Whatever promises it has made, it will be fulfilling that promise. That is what historically been visible. If this kind of credit rating is with a bond issuing company or with a particular bond, now you must be aware of credit rating agencies. Credit rating agencies provide ratings to the bonds when the bonds are coming up for the issue, so that public has an awareness about what quality of the bond it is. The higher the quality of the bond, the higher will be the issue price. Means the price of the bond can be even more than its face value. So if face value of the bond is 1000, it may be issued at a little higher price, considered to be issued at premium. On the other side, a company having bad credit worthiness, weak credit rating, that company, when it is coming up with a bond issue, it will have to rather provide some benefit to the subscriber by offering the bond at a lower price, what we call as bond issued at discount. So when we talk about the issue price, a bond can be issued at par, at premium, at discount. When we say bond issued at par, we necessarily mean that the bond is issued at its face value, means the issue price is equal to the face value. When bond is issued at premium, we would say issue price is greater than the the face value. Issue price is greater than the face value. And when the bond is issued at discount, we would say the issue price is less than the face value. So if the bond has a face value of rupees 1000 and the issuing company has issued that bond for rupees 950, that means the bond is issued at discount. If it is issued exactly at 1000, it is issued at par. If it is issued at something more than that, it is issued at premium. Now friends, this whatever I have discussed, I am sure you people might be knowing it already, but there are certain factors linking to this. So let me move ahead and talk about what is this next term, market price. This next term, market price, talks about the price of the bond that would prevail in the market. Now when we say market, bond market is classified into two segments, the primary market and the secondary market. So first of all, you all should be clear with the difference between the primary market and secondary market. Primary market indicates the market where the issuing company is coming up with a bond issue and the investors are purchasing the bonds directly from the issuing company, what we call as they are subscribing to these bond issue. On the other side, once the bonds have been issued, once the bonds have been floated, then the bond holders, what they would do is among themselves, they will keep on buying and selling the bonds. The trading of bonds happens in the secondary market. So fundraising happens in the primary market, and the trading of the bond among the investors, the purchase sale on a continuous basis, that happens in the secondary market. Now once you know what activities are observed in primary market, what activities are observed in secondary market, you can also be clear with one thing, that the issue price can be considered as a market price. The issue price can be considered as the market price of primary market, whereas what we call as quoted market price or simply the market price is basically the price prevailing in the secondary market. So that was the connection between issue price and market price, where I would say both are market prices. One is the market price of primary market, one is the market price of secondary market. Because we want to distinguish the two terms, we call it better that as issue price and market price. Next term is maturity date. When a bond is a redeemable bond, the bond will have a certain period. Suppose you are approaching a bank and you are seeking to borrow some money from the bank. The first question that the bank would ask is, for what period you want this loan? Exactly that way, when a company is coming up with a bond issue, it is basically borrowing money. It has to convey to the counterparty, that is investor or the bondholder, that we would borrow your money for 5 years or for 8 years or for 10 years or for 20 years. What could be the period of the borrowing? Once the period of the borrowing comes to an end, the bond is considered to reach its maturity date and the bond becomes due for redemption. We will also look into facts where certain bonds are not redeemable in cash, but they are instead convertible into equity shares of the issuing company, which we typically call as convertible bonds. We will have a separate complete session on discussion about convertible bonds, but that will be later. So right now let us focus on the next term. Redemption price, the price which is offered to the bondholder at the time of redemption. So it may happen that to give bondholder some incentive of making investments, suppose I am a bond issuing company, I would say I am issuing a 1000 rupees bond at par, but I will redeem it at 20% premium. Means today you give me 1000 rupees, I will borrow 1000 rupees from you, every year I will pay interest on that 1000, and when the time comes for repayment, I will not repay just 1000, I will give you a bigger value, I will give you 1200. So bond is redeemable at premium. So certain bonds may be redeemable at par, certain bonds may be redeemable at premium. Whatever it is, it has to be mentioned very clearly at the time of issue itself, and that committed price is what we call as redemption price. Next term what we have is intrinsic value. Now friends, we will have elaborate discussion about intrinsic value. Intrinsic value is considered to be the true worth of the bond. So what exactly is intrinsic value? Let us try to understand. When you purchase, when as an investor you purchase a bond, you get rights to receive cash flows. You would receive cash flows towards the coupon payment, and at the maturity of the bond you will also receive the redemption value of that bond. Once you get all these amounts in hand at future date, but those are future payments, what is the worth of that money today? So we would drag all these payments to their present value. In other words, we would discount all the future cash flows to their present value using an appropriate discounting rate. The present value, the lump sum present value, is considered to be intrinsic value of the bond. Now friends, when we talk about bond valuation, it is this intrinsic value that we mainly focus on. We generally try to calculate intrinsic value of the bond. Whatever be the intrinsic value of the bond, that will be declared as value of the bond. Let us move ahead with the next term. The next term we have is callable and puttable bonds. Something very, very important. What are callable bonds and puttable bonds? Let us talk about that. Now friends, there can be bonds which are callable. Now, what are callable bonds? Let me explain by giving a proper example. Suppose I am an issuing company. I am issuing a bond today with a maturity of 10 years. And then I say, however, at the 5th year, I will have a right to call back these bonds for a premature redemption. Means the basic life of the bond is 10 years, but myself being the issuer of the bond, I possess a right to call back these bonds at end of 5th year for a premature redemption. We call such bonds as callable bonds. Now friends, here there is a need to connect with the concept of options that you generally learn in derivatives. When we talk about derivatives and derivative markets, options are one of the highly traded instruments in the derivative market. What are options? Options are choices to buy or sell. So we have options of buying, options of selling. When we have a right to buy something at a future specified date but at the price agreed today, we call that option or right as a call option. When we have right to sell something, we call that right as a put option. So understand one thing, I am the issuing company, I have issued a bond with a maturity period of 10 years. Now you cannot demand redemption before 10 years expire, but if it is a callable bond, I will specify that after certain number of years, maybe after 4th year or at 5th year end, I will have right to call back these bonds. Call back means basically I have a right to repurchase these bonds for immediate redemption. So friends, in that case the bond becomes callable bond. So if I have to define this in one line, I would say when the issuer of the bond holds a right to call back these bonds for premature redemption, then such bonds are considered to be callable bonds. So the price at which the call can be made is known as call price, and the specified date will be considered as call date. So I repeat one thing, suppose I have issued a bond at par which is redeemable after 10 years at par. This was the basic structure of the bond, but then I have attached an option to the bond and made the bond callable bond. So now I am issuing company, I have issued a bond with a life of 10 years. The option attached with the bond allows me to repurchase the bond at end of 6 years from the date of issue. So from the date of issue, the 6th year end will be the call date, and I have promised if I want I can buy back my bonds at 10% premium. In that case, I will not redeem these bonds at par at maturity. Instead, I will pay some extra money and buy back these bonds at 6th year end. So end of 6th year will be considered as call date, and amount which I am paying at that date for premature repurchase and cancellation of that bond is termed as call price. Now that was about callable bonds. Now what are puttable bonds? Now take the matter the other way. Suppose while issuing the bond which has a basic life of 10 years, if I provide rights to the bond holder that dear bond holder, if you want at end of 5 years from now you can sell this bond back to us at your choice at a price which is at par. So if you want you can claim premature redemption. So now it is the bond holder who will possess right to sell, and possess right to sell means that party is possessing a put option attached with a bond, a put option attached with a bond where the option can be exercised at the choice of the holder. It is called a puttable bond. The whole instrument is called a puttable bond. So in a callable bond, what will happen? I have issued the bond, I have right to repurchase the bond before it is matured. However, that date of repurchase I have to specify at the time of issue. That date of repurchase will be called as call date. The price at which the bond will be repurchased also has to be specified. That will be call price, and that bond will be considered as callable bond. If I am issuing a puttable bond, I am offering the right to the bond holder, to the investor, to invest his or her money today, and they have right to claim redemption at two different points. At the maturity, definitely they have right to claim redemption, but if they want at end of 5 years from the date of issue, they can claim that redemption by exercising their right of selling the bond on a premature basis. In that case, the bond becomes a puttable bond. So that was a discussion about callable bonds and puttable bonds. Call date and call price, these two terms I have already explained you while explaining callable bonds. Current yield, a very, very important term. So current yield is basically the current yield of the bond. So what does that mean? Suppose a bond is floating in the market with 15% coupon rate. Now please carefully pay attention to this example. If the bond is a 15% coupon rate bond, now normally these days in India you would find that the risk free securities are available at some 6-7% interest rate, but this bond is having coupon rate of 15%. So investor might expect that, okay, let me invest in this bond and earn what, 15% return. Now what happens when you go and buy that bond? Maybe the price of the bond is not prevailing at its face value, means the par value of the bond, the face value of the bond is just 1000, but if you go and buy that bond, the bond is traded at rupees 2500. That means if an investor has to buy that bond today, they would have to invest 2500, and the coupon payment offered on this bond will be 15%, but 15% not of that 2500, 15% of the par value, that is 15% of 1000. So what will happen? If I am an investor, I would think, boss, I am investing 2500 and what I will get as coupon payment is just rupees 150. So what is my rate of return? My rate of return for the current year, I repeat, my rate of return for the current year is 150 divided by 2500. It is just 6%. You can calculate and check 150 divided by 2500 into 100 in percentage, what you get is just a 6% return. So that is it. Don't get ever carried away by the coupon rate offered by the bond. That could be a misguiding factor, because okay, it is a contractual rate, but you will not earn exactly that rate. You will earn what is current yield. What you will earn is current yield, because that is the rate of return you will generate on your investment, but only for 1 year time. If you want to know what you will earn throughout the life of the bond, then it is not just current yield. Then that term that you have to focus on is the yield to maturity. That is the next term. Yield to maturity of a bond is not just current year's return. It is rate of return throughout the life of the bond. If it is rate of return throughout the life of the bond, what you are going to do is you are just going to observe that the bond has generated a definite rate over a certain number of years. If you can recall, you would have learned concepts of internal rate of return, IRR, correct? So when you are an investor purchasing a bond today and holding that bond till maturity, what will be the yield to maturity? It is nothing but internal rate of return of that investment. IRR of that investment is basically yield to maturity. So what is yield to call? It is applicable first of all for callable bonds only. When I say yield to call means what? It will be again IRR of the bond, but not from the purchase date till the maturity date. It is from the purchase date till the call date. So let me tell you this way. Suppose I have issued a callable bond. Maturity period of the bond is 10 years. That means the life of the bond is 10 years, but the bond is callable after 4 years. As an investor, what will go in your mind? You will compute 3 types of yields. Number 1 will be current yield. That boss, what I am earning in this year, that is current yield. What I can earn up to 4 years of call date is the yield to call. That will be the IRR of the bond up to the call date, from the purchase date up to the call date. And what is yield to maturity? It is IRR of the bond, but from the purchase date till the maturity date. So if you are getting this clarity, I would just say that in case of any bond issue, when there is a callable bond, there will be a call date, and therefore from the investor's viewpoint, it makes sense to compute yield to maturity as well as yield to call. Why? Because at the call date, it will be issuing company's choice. If I have issued the bond, it will be my choice. If I want, I can repurchase my bonds at that date. If I don't want, I will not do it. So if the repurchase is made, then what investor will end up earning is just yield to call. If repurchase is not made, then the investor will earn the overall rate of return up to the maturity, which is called yield to maturity. Friends, one thing, determining this yield to maturity has been a very important factor in the field of bond valuation, and therefore I have dedicated a separate session on dealing with this aspect itself, that is yield to maturity, and that session also I will cover up what is yield to call. Now, next term, zero coupon bonds and deep discount bonds. Zero coupon bonds, the name itself is designed this way, zero coupon bond. Coupon means interest payment, zero coupon means there will be no interest payments. Now if there is no interest payment, why someone will lend their money, why someone will invest their money? The bond is structured little differently. It is this way, that I am issuing a bond of rupees 1000 today, I will redeem this bond after 5 years. However, I will not provide any coupon payments. I will not provide any coupon payments. But when the bond matures, I will have the redemption price fixed as 1600. Then the bond investor, for that party it makes sense to invest in a 1000 rupees bond where the repayment will be 1600. Correct? That kind of bond is called zero coupon bonds. There can be multiple styles of zero coupon bonds. Zero coupon bonds can be issued at par and redeemable at substantial premium. They can be issued at a slight discount but redeemable at premium. They may be issued at a substantial discount but redeemable at par. When a zero coupon bond is issued at a substantial discount but redeemable at par, that is known as deep discount bond. So friends, I am sure you are getting clarity with these terms. We will have a separate notes writing part. All the complicated terms that I am discussing over here will be provided over here on screen, and you can pause the video and you can take note of that once we reach there. So, but let us not jump into things, let us move step by step. Right now my object is to clarify all these terms. Next point that we have to discuss is annuity bonds. The term annuity reflects a constant amount of payment every year or a constant cash flow every year. In an annuity bond, there will be no coupon payments, no redemption price, no coupon payments, no redemption price, but there will be a definite amount of cash flow that will be given in the hands of the bondholder. That will be annuity payments, and the nature of the bond is considered to be annuity bonds. Bond strips, very important concept. Bond strips. Now strips word is basically an acronym. It's a short form. STRIPS, STRIPS. It stands for separate trading of registered interest and principal of the security. I repeat, separate trading of registered interest and principal of the security. STRIPS, strips. Now what happens? Suppose you are an investor, you have purchased a bond. When you have purchased a bond, you get rights of two things. Number one, you get rights of receiving the coupon payments or receiving those interest payments. You also get right of receiving the redemption price. When you get both of these rights, we say that you have rights over two different cash flows. But when you purchase bond, you get both the rights. When you sell the bond, you sell both the rights. What if you are allowed to trade on each right separately? That means you purchase a bond, you got both the rights. Now you don't want to receive constant coupon payments, but you definitely are interested in that redemption price at the end. You may sell off the interest rights or the coupon rights to some other party. When a bond allows separate trading of its interest component and the principal component, then we call that as bond strips, and the interest part will be considered as the interest strip and the redemption part will be considered as the principal strip. So when we are dealing with calculative examples, you will get much more clarity with respect to this. Now this list is little bigger. There are lots of other terms that needs clarification. What I will do is, I will just first of all enlarge the screen, and I will let you note down these terms if at all you are interested. If not interested, you may just skip that. If interested, you can pause the video and take note of the same. So here it goes. Yeah, so all these terms are there in front of you. What you can do is, you can just pause the video and note down if at all you want. Alright friends, you would have already written down these terms if at all you were interested. Let us move ahead and write down other terms. Concept of par bonds, premium bonds and discount bonds, convertible bonds and debentures, CCDs and OCDs, straight value of convertible bonds, stock value of convertible bonds, conversion parity price, conversion premium, clean price and dirty price. Also see duration of bond, volatility of bond, sensitivity of bond, convexity of bond, bond portfolio, immunization of bond, and concept of replacement of bonds. So friends, we have a lot to do within this topic, and I would say most of these terms what you are right now finding on screen, these terms will be covered in sessions ahead. So we will definitely discuss a few out of this. For example, the first term that we find over here, that is par bond, premium bond and discount bond. Let me talk about that. Par bond, premium bonds and discount bonds. You might be wondering that, sir, we have just talked about this term par bond, premium bond, discount bond. When the bond is issued at par, it is par bond. When the bond is issued at premium, it is premium bond. When the bond is issued at discount, it is discount bond. It is not wrong, but that kind of understanding is restrictive to only one point of time, that is at the time of issue of the bond. Only at one point of time, that is at the time of issue of the bond. Later on, when the bond is floated in the market, then the entire consideration of this term will be little different. So after the bond is floated, par bond, premium bond and discount bond will be interpreted little differently. See what will happen. You will then compare the face value of the bond with the intrinsic value of the bond. I told you what is the meaning of intrinsic value and how to determine intrinsic value. So you will compare intrinsic value of the bond with the face value of the bond. When the intrinsic value of the bond is same as the face value, it is called as par bond. When the intrinsic value of the bond is greater than the face value, it becomes a premium bond, and when intrinsic value of the bond is less than the face value, it is considered as discount bond. So for your understanding, you can take it this way. Intrinsic value is the true worth of bond, right? Suppose face value of the bond is 1000 and its intrinsic value is 1068, means the bond has the real worth more than its face value. So obviously when you go and purchase that bond in the market, it will not be available at 1000, it will be available at premium. That is why when the intrinsic value is greater than face value, we call that as a premium bond. When intrinsic value is less than the face value, we call it as a discount bond. So friends, what we do now is, we will get started with some calculative examples to develop much better understanding, and let us follow up series of some questions for getting more clarification of these concepts. Friends, before we move to any particular question, I would also want you to write down this particular question. What is the intrinsic value of a bond? How to determine the intrinsic value of a bond? And answer to this will be, intrinsic value of a bond is the true worth of the bond. It is determined by taking the aggregate present value of coupon payments and redemption price over the remaining maturity period. where the discounting rate is the expected rate of return or the desired yield rate by the investor. Friends, I told you, you will get more clarity once you go into calculative examples, but right now what I would want is, please take note of this, and because I have not included the writing time with this session, I would want you to pause the video. If at all you want to write, just pause the video, note it down, and then we shall move ahead. So fine, I'm sure you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us move ahead, and now what we do is we take up the very first question, that is question number 1. Let us read this question. A bond was issued on 1st April 2014 at par for rupees 1000, bearing an interest rate of 8% per annum. The interest is payable at each year end on 31st March. Bond is redeemable at end of 10th year from the date of issue at 10% premium. At present, that is on 25th March 2018, the bond can be purchased in open market at price of rupees 1023. The investor expects a rate of return of 10% per annum. Identify the following: face value, issue price, coupon rate, coupon payment, maturity date, redemption price, market value as on 25/3/2018 and intrinsic value as on 31/3/2018. Now friends, the question is asking you to identify all these values, right? So one by one, face value of the bond is clearly appearing as rupees 1000. Issue price of the bond, because the bond is issued at par, the issue price is also rupees 1000. Coupon rate of the bond is this 8% per annum. Coupon payment is 8% of the face value or nominal value, so it will be 8% of 1000, that will be rupees 80. Then maturity date is the date that will fall due after 10 years from the date of issue. This is the date of issue. Adding 10 years to that, it will fall due on 31st March 2024. After maturity date, the question is asking you to determine the redemption price. Bond is redeemable at 10% premium, so the redemption price will be the face value plus 10% premium, that will be rupees 1100. Market value as on 25/3/2018, the market price is directly given to you, so you can identify that it is 1023, and intrinsic value on this date will have to be determined by calculating the present values, right? Present values of the future cash flows over the remaining maturity. So let us do one thing. Let us see how to present the solution. In the solution, you first mention everything that we have discussed, and there is only one thing that is pending, and that is intrinsic value that will be as on 31/3/2018. But before we do that, first write up this whole thing. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us move ahead and now determine the intrinsic value. So as on 31/3/2018, the bond's remaining maturity is still 6 years, correct? Because its maturity date is 31/3/2024, and the date which we are considering now is 31/3/2018, and the gap between the current date and the maturity date is definitely 6 years. So we will find the intrinsic value on 31/3/2018 by converting all the future cash flows into their respective present values. So friends, what we have done, please try to understand. For years 1 to 6, the cash flow will be rupees 80 every year. This will be an annual payment over 6 years. That means every year rupees 80 will be paid, and therefore the PV factor that is applied at 10% is not a singular PV factor, it is the aggregate of PV factors of 6 years, which we call as annuity factor. And I am sure
through the concept of time value of money, you know how to determine this PV factor or annuity factor directly using your calculator. So this will be discounting rate of 10%. So 1 divided by 1.1, you may press equal to 6 times. Whatever you get, you will be writing that as the 6th year's factor, and the aggregate of all these factors can be obtained on your calculator by simply applying GT. If your calculator does not have GT function, then manually you can sum up all the PV factors of 6 years to arrive at this annuity factor. Now, when you multiply this annuity factor to the cash flow and this PV factor to this redemption price, you will be getting the respective present values, and when you take that aggregate, the resulting intrinsic value is 969.34. So friends, this is how we determine intrinsic value of a bond. So please take note of this as well, and that will be end of the solution.
So just pause the video and finish the writing work. Alright, you must have done the required thing. Let us move ahead and now talk about the next concept, that is what are par bonds, premium bonds and discount bonds. So friends, basically some time back I have already discussed this matter with you. What is par bond, premium bond and discount bond? So let us talk about it once again. We have the discussion to be split into two different time periods. One is the issue date and one is the later date. At the issue date, at the time of issue, the bond can be classified as par bond, premium bond, discount bond, depending upon at what price it is issued. If the bond is issued at the price which is matching with its face value, we call it as par bond. If the issue price is greater than its face value, we call that as premium bond. If the issue price is less than the face value, it is called discount bond. I have told you friends, that will happen only at the point of issue. Thereafter, to classify the bond, whether it is par bond, premium bond or discount bond, you will have to compare the intrinsic value of the bond with the face value of the bond. So I have told you earlier also, if the bond has a face value of rupees 1000 and the intrinsic value is also 1000, we call that as par bond. If the intrinsic value is greater than 1000, so what will happen? The real worth of the bond is more than its face value. Then it becomes a premium bond. In case when the intrinsic value is less than the face value, it becomes a discount bond. So friends, what I'll do is I'll just give you these notes over here on the screen. You may just note it down, and you know what you have to do. Just pause the video and note down everything what you want, and then you can resume watching the video. So let us do one thing. Let me expand the screen size for your reference. So the question over here is, what are par bonds, premium bonds and discount bonds? At the time of issue, if the bond is issued at its face value, it is par bond. If the bond is issued above its face value, it is premium bond. If the bond is issued below its face value, it is discount bond. Once the bond is floated in the market, if the intrinsic value equals to its face value, it is par bond. If the intrinsic value is higher than its face value, it is premium bond. If the intrinsic value is lower than its face value, it is discount bond. So you know what you have to do. Pause the video and note down. Alright, you would have written this whole thing. Let me take you ahead. Now what is the next thing coming up? It is how to identify whether the bond is fairly priced. A very, very important concept that requires a good understanding over here. How would you determine whether the bond is fairly priced? So whether the price of the bond which is prevailing in the secondary market, is it a fair price or not? So here what you will do is, you will first compute the true worth of the bond. That means you will first compute the intrinsic value of the bond. Once you determine the intrinsic value of the bond, compare that with the market price. Now see what will happen. If the market price is greater than the intrinsic value, means the bond is priced more than what it should be priced at. In other words, the intrinsic value of the bond is the proper value of the bond. If the bond is being traded in the market at a higher price, that means if the market price is greater than intrinsic value, we would simply say that the bond is overpriced. If the bond is traded in the market at a value less than the intrinsic value, we would say the bond is underpriced. And if the bond is trading in the market exactly at the same price which is matching with its intrinsic value, we would call that the bond is fairly priced. So what kind of action an investor would take? A bond which is underpriced, an investor will tend to buy that bond. A bond which is overpriced, the investor will tend to sell the bond. A bond which is fairly priced, the investor will not take any action of buying or selling. Instead, the investor will just keep holding the bond until the price gets little lower or higher than the intrinsic value. So basically the buy and sell actions are mainly taken when the bond is either underpriced or overpriced. So for your reference, I would repeat it once again. Underpriced bonds will always attract the investor to buy such bond. Overpriced bond will always attract an investor to sell such bonds. So friends, whatever we have discussed, I am putting the same thing on over here on the screen. Just take note of that, pause the video and write down whatever you wish to. So here I have enlarged the screen and you may just take note of this whole thing. If the market price of the bond equals to its intrinsic value, then such bond is considered to be fairly priced in the market. If the market price of the bond is higher than its intrinsic value, then such bond is considered to be overpriced. If the market price of the bond is lower than its intrinsic value, then such bond is considered to be underpriced. If the bond is underpriced, simply what you do is buy such bond. If the bond is overpriced, what you do is sell such bond. So friends, whatever we have discussed, it is there on the screen. Pause the video, note down everything what you want, and then you can move ahead. Alright friends, I assume that the writing work and noting work is done. Let me take you ahead now, and now what we have is question number 2. Let us read this question.
Face value of the bond is given as rupees 1000. Coupon rate is 9%. Coupon payments are made at end of each year. Remaining maturity is 4 years. Bond is redeemable at 15% premium. The present market price of the bond is rupees 1020. The desired rate of return for the investor is 11% per annum. Determine whether the bond is overpriced or underpriced in the open market. Should the bond be purchased? So friends, we have just discussed how to identify whether the bond is underpriced or overpriced. So what you would simply do is, you would first determine the intrinsic value of the bond with the discounting rate of 11%, which is the desired yield rate or the expected rate of return for the investor, and then compare the intrinsic value of the bond with the current market price. So let us see how to present the solution. So we first compute the intrinsic value. So the remaining maturity is 4 years. Till 4 years you would be getting the coupon payment of rupees 90 each year, and on the redemption you would get the redeemable value of 1150. The respective PV factors and annuity factors have been applied over here. Now multiplying these cash flows towards coupon payment with this annuity factor and the redemption price to this PV factor of 4th year, we would be getting the present value of cash flows, which aggregated becomes intrinsic value. Now this indicates the true worth of the bond. That means the fair worth or the fair value of the bond is 1036.76, whereas the quoted market price is 1020, which is lower than the intrinsic value determined above. So what we can say, bond's price is lower than what it should be. So the bond is underpriced and hence the bond can be purchased. So friends, do one thing, note down what you find on screen, and that will be end of the solution.
Alright friends, you would have finished doing what was needed. Let us move ahead and now talk about annuity bonds. If you can recall, some time back while explaining the basic terms, I have already clarified the meaning of annuity bonds. If you could see, annuity bonds are such bonds which are not going to provide any coupon payments to the investor. Neither these bonds will provide any redemption price. Instead, once the bondholder has invested his or her money, then the amount will be repaid along with interest in installments. Each installment is payable annually, and that constant payment each year is what is termed as annuity. So, how do you identify the characteristics of an annuity bond? Simply what you will do is, you will find no coupon payments, no redemption price. Instead, there will be constant cash flows given to the investor, and that constant cash flows given each year up to its maturity are termed as annuity payments. And suppose you are required to determine the intrinsic value of an annuity bond, you just write for the entire span of its life. Suppose it is 5 years, so you would write year 1 to 5 the annuity amount each year, and then you multiply the annuity factor, and the present value what you get will be the intrinsic value of the annuity bond. So friends, whatever we have discussed, let us do one thing. Let us first write some notes about it over here, and then we shall take up some calculative examples as well.
I have already explained you what are annuity bonds. Let us now write up some notes about it. These bonds are paid over a period of time by the same amount of cash flows each year. Therefore, there is neither any coupon payment nor any redemption price. All the cash flows of these bonds are spread over their life by way of annuities. So, do one thing, quickly write this paragraph about annuity bonds, and then we make calculations about the same. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this as well. Let us move ahead and take up some questions relating to this concept. So, question number 4, let us read this question. Issue price of an annuity bond is rupees 1000. Bond pays an annuity of rupees 170 per annum over 10 years of its life. Determine the intrinsic value of this bond if the desired yield rate is 11%. Now, very simple. What you just have to do as part of your solution, you would simply make that same table. Now, in the table what we generally make, we write 2 lines, correct? One is for the coupon payment and one is for the redemption price. Here there is neither any coupon payment nor any redemption price. The only cash flow that we have is the annuity of 170 every year for 10 years. So, we have applied the annuity factor over these annuities. We will get present value when you multiply these, and finally the intrinsic value is 1001.16. That's all. That is the end of the solution. Quickly take note of this, and then we shall move ahead. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us move ahead and now take up the next question, that is question number 5. It says intrinsic value of an annuity bond is 1086, desired yield rate is 10%, remaining period of maturity is 6 years. You are required to determine the amount of annuity receivable by investor every year. So, here it is a reversal calculation. Annuities are missing, but the discounting rate is given and the intrinsic value is also given. So, simply let us see how to present the solution. We would say PV factor of annuity for 6 years at 10% per annum, we can determine that as 4.3553. Intrinsic value will be annuities multiplied by present value factor or annuity factor. So, when you multiply annuity to annuity factor, you get intrinsic value. So, annuity will be basically the intrinsic value 1086 divided by 4.3553, and what you get is 249.35. So, take note of this as well, and that will be end of the solution. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us move ahead and take up the next part of the notes, which is about zero coupon bonds. We have already discussed this concept. These are bonds which do not provide any coupon payments. These bonds are either issued at nominal discount or at par and redeemable at significant premium. The present value of cash flows from this bond considers only the present value of redemption price, which is its intrinsic value. With maturity date coming closer, the intrinsic value of such bond increases. So friends, write down these notes quickly and then we shall move ahead. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us write a line about deep discount bonds as well. Just one single line. These are such zero coupon bonds which are redeemable at par but issued at significant discount. Quickly write this as well. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this. Let us move ahead now and write notes on callable bonds. A callable bond is such a bond that provides an option to the issuer to call for redemption at a specified date before maturity. Such bonds are generally redeemed before maturity if the interest rate in the market declines. The call date is a specified date at which the issuer can call for premature redemption, and the call price of a bond is the price payable on call date if call option is exercised. So friends, write up this whole thing and then we shall move ahead. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us write a note about puttable bonds as well. A puttable bond is such a bond that provides an option to the holder to claim redemption at a specified date before maturity. Write this quickly and then we move ahead. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this. Let us move ahead and write a note about bond strips. I have already explained you in detail what are bond strips. Strips is an acronym, that is an abbreviation or short form for separate trading of registered interest and principal of securities. The present value of cash flows from a bond can be divided into two categories: present value of interest, which we call as interest strip, and present value of redemption price, that is called the principal strip. The investor has option to buy or sell the interest strip and principal strip separately. Please note down this and then we shall move ahead. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this. Let us move ahead and take up a question relating to bond strips. Face value of the bond rupees 1000, coupon rate 9%, coupon payments are made at end of each year, remaining maturity is 4 years. Bond is redeemable at 15% premium. Present market price of the bond is rupees 820 for the principal strip and rupees 260 for the interest strip. If the desired rate of return for the investor is 11% per annum, determine whether the bond strips are overpriced or underpriced in the open market. Now friends, this is going to be very simple. You just have to find the present value of future cash flows. Instead of taking the aggregate of the two, you may individually compare the present value of interest strip and principal strip with their respective market prices. So let us see how to present the solution. You would simply work out the present values of the cash flows exactly the same way as we work out the intrinsic value of any ordinary bond. So you will find that the present value of interest strip came to 279.22 and the present value of the principal strip is 757.54. When you take aggregate of these two, you get the entire value of bond. But if you would want to evaluate the strips of both the bonds, whether they are underpriced or overpriced, you would simply make up an additional table. Interest strip and principal strip, intrinsic value what we have determined above, see 279.22 from this part of the table, 757.54 from this part of the table, and finally when you have noted down the intrinsic values, you may simply also write up the quoted market price with respect to each of them, and then you find that the interest strip is underpriced and the principal strip is overpriced.
So friends, that was all what we wanted to discuss in this session. Now we have this topic, bond valuation, as a big topic, and I have planned some more sessions ahead, so don't miss out the opportunity. Stay tuned to this channel and keep watching the videos over here, and this will be the end of this first part. So let us declare this as end of part 1. Thank you so much for attending this session.